Fellow Agilists, welcome to another episode in Season 3 of the Virtually Agile podcast. As always on the podcast, we aspire for neurodiversity and the amplification of voices that are seldom heard, as well as hearing from established thought leaders. Today's guest describes herself as a modern product development champion and coach. I'm pleased to welcome Rebecca Dainton to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me.
That's okay. So for any listeners who aren't familiar with your work, Rebecca, could you please just tell us a little bit more about you and your journey with Agile?
Sure. So yeah, I am a Scrum Master. Currently working at PokerStars. I'm working with a couple of software engineering teams at the moment. I've been in the Agile world now probably for about 7 years, and always been in tech as well. Always been in technology. That's kind of like my chosen field and where I want to stay, I think. And yeah, I guess my LinkedIn title, modern product development kind of coach, all that stuff. I guess that's me trying to figure out what a Scrum Master actually does. I often have a bit of a laugh with my dad, who I say to him, yeah, I'm a Scrum Master, and he's like, what is that? Like, so I guess that was me sitting down and thinking, like, what is it I actually do? And yeah, I'm really into modern product development, and I guess the coaching side of it comes from the Scrum Mastery, and hopefully I champion it because I believe it's the way forward. So, hi.
Excellent. It's an interesting title, and I did note it, and it's stuck in my mind. And as you observe, Scrum Mastery as a job title doesn't really make a lot of sense for those outside of the Agile sphere. You hear that and you're like, what's a Scrum Master do? I have no idea. Whereas you can say you're someone who champions good product development, that probably does make more sense. At least people can visualize that a bit further. I'm increasingly interested in the notion that should we abandon the title of Scrum Master? And there's a couple of reasons I'm interested in your thoughts on it. So master, like the master, can not resonate with people. It suggests a certain, not necessarily just mastery of the field and the craft, but maybe like a subservient nature to the role. But also, if we think that Scrum Master implies Scrum only, when actually a Scrum Master typically is the voice of Agile at the team level. And sometimes Scrum isn't the flavor of Agile that they are helping their teams with. So we're seeing increasingly roles such as Agile Leader or simply Agile Coach being used in place of Scrum Masters. So what is your thoughts? Are you a fan of the title Scrum Master? Do you think we should try something different?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think, like, as a Scrum Master, you do so much more than just master the Scrum framework and kind of teach that. And I guess in my early days, I did work for a company we were using kind of pure Scrum, and Scrum was my first kind of framework that I learned all about, and it's the first framework that we used, I guess, with the teams. But yeah, now I would definitely say like something like an Agile Coach speaks more to, I guess, what I do on the day to day. And I think you're right, like not all teams fit Scrum. You know, Scrum doesn't fit all organizations. There's so many different frameworks or like, you know, concepts that we can pull from different Agile methodologies. So yeah, I guess it does kind of just suggest we do Scrum and we master Scrum, and that's kind of what we do for a job. But yeah, we do tons more than that, and it doesn't fit every organisation. So yeah, I'd be in favour, I guess, for a different title. Yeah, because I can't really think of any kind of scenario where it would just be, I only know Scrum, we are just doing Scrum, and that is all we're going to home in on, and we will not look at anything else. Maybe then that would be an appropriate title, but I don't think there's ever a time where that would be a good attitude to have. So yeah, I reckon change it.
Interesting. Thank you for your thoughts. I'm equally on the side of change it, just because I firmly believe that it's not a one size fits all situation. And actually, yes, a team may begin with Scrum, but they may begin to leverage flavors or other elements. They might borrow tenets from scaling frameworks. They might leverage Kanban instead. To me, all that matters is the outcome that they are seeking, that either that team, company, organization, and that those outcomes and the ways of working that they're using match their situation, people, context, and culture. So it's not a one size all copy and paste situation. And yeah, I firmly believe that a Scrum Master, or at least many of the Scrum Masters out there, are probably doing more than just Scrum. So why should they be limited to just being Scrum Masters? Anyway, keeping on the topic of
Absolutely.
Scrum, I know you are a fan of it and scaling Scrum in particular. So, are there any ways, methods, approaches, tools, or tips or tricks you would share with any of the listeners for how to scale Scrum and do Scrum well?
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, as you say, I'm a massive fan of Scrum. I think it's a great framework for like building products, specifically, software products. It works brilliantly. But you often see that when people start to scale it, you lose the scrumminess, if you like, if that's even a word. So so yeah, I guess I've seen Scrum scaled well and not so well. And I guess thinking of kind of tools and tips. For me, it's about starting small. So, not kind of saying, right, we want to scrum the whole company or, scrum the whole tribe or whatever. For me, it's about pulling out some, one, two small cross-functional teams that can deliver, a feature or some value for the customer end to end, and getting them working really, really well, getting them completely autonomous, making sure the main thing, getting every skill that you need within that squad to deliver that piece of value. And it's a lot easier said than done. And I find if you try and scale that straight away, it's really, really hard, and you end up kind of missing the foundations of getting that cross functionality within the team. And yeah, so I think start small, and I think you've got to get into the core of organizational design for me. So
Mhm.
you can and people um, do Scrum with like component teams, so front end teams, back end teams. Still have kind of testing teams and all that. But it's not proper Scrum. So we need to look at that cross functionality and that organizational design, I think, to get Scrum working really well. Even at one kind of team level, and then once you've got that, you just need to kind of copy and paste that model, I guess. And I found that I went and did the large scale Scrum, so the less course, a few weeks ago, um, and that was really, really focused on kind of like feature teams and organizational structure and all the stuff that's really hard to kind of figure out. Um, so for me, yeah, that's the biggest thing. Take a piece of work, a feature, something the customer's after, and make sure you've got a squad of people who can deliver that stuff on their own, and don't stop until you've got that one squad, and then look to kind of scale it from there.
So, if I was to summarize what you've said there, maybe nail it before you scale it.
Yes, absolutely, that
Does that
fits
sound about
nicely.
right?
Yeah, I'll pinch
Yeah.
that one off you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Another one I like that's don't scale spaghetti is someone that once said to me. So, if you've got a couple of squads that are not, not well defined, they're not cross functional, they are spaghetti, if you like. If you copy and paste that, you're just going to scale spaghetti. So we don't want to do that. We want to get things, nailed, like you say, and then go up from there.
Hmm. Interesting. I think the one thing I would probably disagree with you on is the copy and paste thing you mentioned. I think there's definitely elements of, when you're trying to help a new team adapt or develop their ways of working, then yes, a starting point can be a core structure, Scrum, but always, for me, always tailor how the team are working based on their own needs and their situation and their context, culture, people involved. I think I have observed that copy and pasting doesn't resonate. It ends up being that you're inflicting change upon people rather than inviting change. And I'm a big believer in the kind of co-creation side of things. So if we think about the outcome in mind, right? So you're trying to help a team get better with their ways of working, and the outcome is to help them get better. How could we do that? Well, Scrum is one option at their disposal. And if they want if they want to learn some lessons from another team that's been doing it, a very similar team, hey, here's a bit of a guidance. Here's some ways they've worked, and let's try it for you as an experiment. But absolutely, let's learn from it quickly, and let's tailor the approach to your needs rather than just the copy and pasting side of things. But I'm interested to hear you went on
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
less course.
Yeah, I was just going to say that might have been a miscommunication on my part. So when I said copy and paste, so in terms of the frameworks and the methods and all that, yeah, absolutely let the team decide on that. That's their choice. I think the copy and paste thing for me was get the cross-functional team together. So I think for me, like I guess whatever framework or methodology or way of working you need, you've got to have people in that team who can get the job done. Otherwise, it's just going to be kind of dependency hell. So yeah, absolutely. Don't copy and paste the Scrum bit. Let the team decide how they want to work. But I think the principle of cross-functionality, I think that's just a nice thing to have, in every team. Otherwise, it's going to make life tougher for them, I guess. If they can't get the job done themselves, they've got to find someone who can help, find another team, and it's just dependency nightmares, and I guess. So yeah, probably a misunderstanding on my part there with the copy and paste thing.
Sure. I think one of the things that particularly resonates me about Less, I remember reading on their website a while ago. I think it was something along the lines of there being no such thing as best practices, only practices that are good within a certain context. And for me, the other thing that I really liked about it is some of the visuals. They have this great focus on experimentation. I remember seeing this almost bullseye target style visual where experiments was all around the edge, and the experimental nature of Less. You're continuously learning what's working based on framing something as an experiment, including your ways of working, learning from it, and adjusting accordingly. To me, that's down to how you continuously improve. To me, agility is agility is caused by continuous improvement, and continuous improvement is caused by retrospection, or reflecting and adapting how you're performing. And experimentation is key to that.
Yeah, absolutely. They're really big on experimentation. They've got an entire book on kind of the experiments that they've done as like a Less community. And yeah, best practice. So they hate that word, and I completely agree. So like, I think it stems from like Taylorism and scientific management. Best practice, all that copy and paste consistency stuff, and a word or a couple of words I like to use instead of best practice, better practices, because then it's not something permanent. And like you say, it's about that continuous improvement, which is like massive, I guess, for Agile. So yeah.
So much. And for me, the ways a team is working is an impermanent thing. What I tend to encourage and emphasize is that their ways of working are just the next phase of experimentation, and it's not set in stone, especially for a new team, right? And for a new team, you've got someone else coming in, a coach or otherwise, and they're saying, "Oh, you should try working this way." If they feel like it's the way they're going to work forever, there'll be a huge resistance to it. But if you're just saying, "Hey, we're going to try this for a few weeks," and then you get to decide whether it works or not, you get to influence the direction of it. If we build in this experimental nature, this continuous improvement mindset, then we're not going to be working the same way forever, because we're going to continuously adjust what we're doing based on what we've learned about ourselves and how we work together.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I like things like Scrum for like the built-in retros, where you are literally every couple of weeks, or however long your sprint is, looking back and saying, how are our ways of working doing? And it's just a good opportunity to, like you say, right, let's experiment with this for 2 weeks or a couple of sprints, and then this is your like you say, it's your team, it's your way of working. Like, is this going well for you? Do we want to change it? Do we want to run a different experiment? Which is good.
Yeah, I am hugely passionate about continuous improvement and retrospectives, as I'm sure you're aware. It's the topic of a book that I'm currently writing that I've actually made some progress on now. So that should hopefully be out sometime this year. And it's all about this continuous improvement. It includes lots of tips and tricks, all my flim flam strategies, gambits, and otherwise for how to create an environment of continuous improvement, but also how to run good, successful retrospectives. Yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing that with people. Now,
Yeah, nice. I'll look forward to reading it.
or maybe I'll send over, in the interest of being agile, maybe I'll send over a few chapters for you to take a look at and provide some feedback on if you're open to it. Now,
Absolutely, I'm up for
that. Great, thank you. I'm very keen to talk to you about a certain thing, and I think this was a topic that you suggested. So, children, the concept of maternity leave, career progression for women, which I'm told is relevant because you're expecting your second child. How has this whole concept experience been for you in the agile field?
Yeah, sure. So I am, yes, expecting baby number 2, so due in July. So we've already got a 3-year-old little girl.
Congratulations.
So yes, all going well. So thank you very much. So yeah, so I guess it is important, and I've had quite positive experiences. So I guess just thinking back to when I had my first little girl, Sophia, who's now 3. I was working at a different company then, and yeah, I decided to take a full year's mat leave, which was amazing. So I got an entire year offering my little girl to enjoy her kind of growing up to age 1, and that was something that for me was the right thing to do. I know lots of women decide to go back earlier or take even longer, so everyone's different, aren't they? And kind of it's great that we live in a world now where we can kind of have that choice of taking less time, more time, and companies that kind of are really flexible. So the company I worked with was really flexible, so I took the year, and I'd done unofficially probably about a year's worth of Scrum Mastery with them prior to going on mat leave. So we'd started the first couple of kind of Scrum teams at that company. They'd not done Scrum before. I was the first kind of Scrum Master there, and we'd got things going really nicely. And then obviously I went off on maternity leave, and I guess coming back, it was a mixture of feelings really. Obviously I'm going to miss my little girl, but I'm quite career driven as well, so I was looking forward to getting back into things. But I'd not actually got a permanent job as a Scrum Master, so although I'd been doing Scrum and I'd learned about Scrum and we'd got a couple of squads and we'd got them delivering some really nice features and stuff, my official role was still project manager, because that's where I started. I started off in traditional waterfall project management within tech. So I thought, well, I'll come back now, and I've kind of almost, lost that year, and I'll be back to kind of project management. But I came in on a kit day, actually, a keeping in touch day, and I met with the digital development manager who I'd kind of done the Scrum and squad work with, and he just wanted to have a chat. And it was actually at my kit day, so my keeping in touch day, that I was actually offered a promotion up to being the Scrum Master. So it was a really, really positive experience for me, because I just thought, well, we talk about obviously things like maternity leave and children slowing things down for women, which I think they do, because inevitably you are taking time off, and you are missing out. You've got a year where you're not at work. But actually, this particular digital development manager had kind of recognised what I'd been doing prior to me going off. They had brought in the role of a permanent Scrum Master at that company, which didn't exist before. And he'd basically said, look, we liked what you were doing before. This is out there. And I thought to myself, great, but he's never going to let me take it, because I want to be part-time. I want to come back 3 days as opposed to 5. And actually, he just looked me in the eyes and said, that's fine. And I couldn't believe it. So like my confidence was thinking, I'm thinking, no chance, I'm not going to be able to be a Scrum Master. It's a new permanent role. They're the first one. They're going to want someone full-time doing this. And actually, it was just amazing for this, male manager to just go, no, that's fine. We know you can do the job 3 days. It's kind of yours. You've got the experience. So that was really positive for me. And I think a video that I tend to kind of look at or look back at is a Sheryl Sandberg video about, I think the title is something around like, women in leadership, or why we don't have enough women in leadership. And she talks about this concept of not leaving before you leave. So, as a woman, or I guess a guy, you might start thinking when you're looking at having a family, right, okay, so I've got this, for example, now I've got 3 months left at my job before I stop for mat leave. And you start to wind down and think, oh, I won't go for that promotion because I'm having a baby in a year's time, or I don't want to get into a too stressful a job because I'm having a baby in a year or so. And she's saying even like 5 years prior to kind of having a family, women are kind of thinking, well, I know I've got that family step coming up, so I don't want to take too big of a leap. And I think that video just really resonates with me, and this time especially, I've tried to keep involved in loads of different initiatives of work. I'm not leaving before I leave, so literally up until the last day of mat leave, I'll be doing, things like this, getting involved in different projects, putting myself out there and volunteering, still going and doing my training courses and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a really important topic, and I do think it can, slow women down if you're having children, you decide to take the time off. But also on the other hand, I think we live in a great kind of world today, and when you've got managers like I had before that, recognise you for what you do and don't, hold things against you, like the fact that you want to come back part-time, I think, we are in a really good place, which is nice.
So it's very heartening to hear you've had such a great experience with it. And it sounds like there's a good video there. What was the name? Sorry, it's "Don't Leave
So
Before You
it's
Leave"
Sheryl
by
Sandberg.
Sheryl
Yeah, it's
Sandberg.
Sheryl Sandberg. Yeah, yeah. and it's about women in leadership. So I can find it and send you a link if you want to add it to kind of when this podcast comes out. But it's a really good one. It's a really, really good one. I watch it when I need inspiration. So
There we go. Something to inspire anyone who is facing a similar scenario in the coming future, and things to think about. Don't leave before you leave. Wonderful. Okay, so another topic I had in mind for you and I to discuss was around dyslexia. And you believe that dyslexia is a great, well, dyslexia isn't something that hinders a Scrum Master, Agile Coach, or leader. And for someone who has dyslexia, it isn't necessarily a limiting factor. So tell me a little bit more about your experiences with dyslexia and the Scrum Master or Agile coaching role.
sure. So yeah, so I do have dyslexia, and I didn't find out. So I think I was about 25. So coming up to 10 years ago now, give my age away. So yeah, so obviously not diagnosed through school or anything like that. So often growing up thinking, I'm a stupid, I'm a dumb because I couldn't spell kind of quickly, and it took me a little bit longer to process information. But always kind of knew in the back of my head I wasn't, because I got stuff and I had really good ideas, but for some reason I just couldn't get, things like spelling. So yeah, actually ended up reading a book, Richard Branson's book, all about Virgin and how the company kind of got going. And he's dyslexic, and he was kind of talking about these different ways of thinking he had about kind of, you always want to see things at the high level. He didn't really want to hear about detail, but he could kind of see patterns and look at the high level really quickly. And there were just a lot of things that he was saying in that book. I just started thinking, this is me, this is me. So much so that I thought I'm gonna book a blooming private dyslexic test here, because I was like, this is actually like my life. Other than I'm not a billionaire. So I booked it, and yeah, it came back that I am dyslexic. So that was for me just a massive relief, because obviously I'd kind of grown up thinking, maybe I was just not good at spelling, or I don't know, just wasn't quite as quick as some other people. And actually it was just a big relief for me. And I guess in terms of kind of agile and kind of what we do, I suppose it's a bit of a dream really. If you say to a dyslexic, do you want to look at 200-page requirements document, or do you want to look at some nice succinct post-it notes on a board? Straight away it's like, yeah, definitely the post-it notes. That makes sense. So yeah, so it's been a bit of a journey. Like I say, a nice relief to kind of find out a little bit later in life. Wish I'd have known, obviously, younger. But I think, yeah, there's a really good book. I'm just trying to grab it actually. Oh. Yeah, this if you can see, this is Dyslexia. Probably don't know if
This
it'll
is
show backwards and
dyslexia.
yeah, by Kate Griggs. And it's basically talking about the strengths that dyslexics have, rather than kind of weaknesses. So yeah, we struggle with typos and spelling, but actually we make really, really good leaders. We're really good at kind of communication. Our emotional intelligence is kind of off the scale. They actually recruit. They're actually recruiting dyslexics now. So in places like Secret Service, MI5, they will actually hunt for dyslexics, because we've got a way of thinking, that neurodiversity, to find patterns and see things that a normal brain, if you like, wouldn't see as quickly as us. So there's lots of different like superpowers, she calls them, basically in this book, that we have. And I think it works really nicely in terms of like agile ways of working, like leadership, and coaching. For me, there's certain skills that I've got that I can now go, yeah, I do think differently to other people. I notice that now, and that is a strength for me. So yes, I think it's come a long way. I think people are recognising it in different ways. You've got champions like Kate Griggs all over it now. And yeah, definitely recommend, if you are dyslexic, like agile coaching. It plays to my strengths. I don't need to get bogged down into the detail. I can kind of see where issues are and improvements are at like a high level quite quickly, and work with my teams then who do get into detail. The software engineers couldn't be more detailed in the roles they do, to get, I guess, the outcomes that we're after as a team. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your experiences there. I love that it's being destigmatized. So I am a believer in neurodiversity. The podcast has it as a bit of a theme. I'm trying to host people from various walks of life, neurodivergent people being part of that. For anyone who has read the book Rebel Ideas by Matthew Syed, it emphasizes the importance of having a diverse group of people together, and the consequence of doing so is innovation and different thinking. If you think back to how the CIA typically in the past used to recruit primarily middle class white people, and that narrowed and blinkered them to the possibilities of some of the things that could happen in the world, like the likes of 9/11. And now neurodivergence and the importance of it is becoming increasingly prominent in how you structure teams and how you lead organizations and otherwise. I recently observed that LinkedIn in particular has added the dyslexic thinkers badge or label to its profiles, enabling someone to claim that as their superpower, as you say, to destigmatize it, but also to flip the emphasis and reinforce that those with dyslexia have strengths, as you say, superpowers in being creative problem solvers and great communicators. So I love that you've shared your story there and your journey with it. It sounds great. It sounds like there is potential for anyone who has dyslexia to be a great agile coach, scrum master, or leader. And I think the other thing I really want to highlight is that it shouldn't be a limiting belief, a limiting factor on you pursuing a career in those industries or in those roles.
Absolutely, that's it. Yeah, yeah. And I think it's just about doing things a little bit differently. So I could always remember trying to get onto the graduate program at the kind of first organisation that I joined, and I knew I wanted to be a leader, and I knew I'd be good at it deep down, but I couldn't pass the plumbing test. Like, it was just impossible for me. And I think I gave them like 3 goes, and I was like, right, it's not gonna happen. I didn't get on the graduate program, but um, you just have to go in a different direction and think, well, that's where I want to be. I can't get it through that route. It's not working for my brain, so I'm going to get it through a different route. And yeah, you can absolutely go, do agile coaching in this kind of world with dyslexia. It's a good move.
Amazing. Now, I'm just going to draw attention to something. So, anyone listening on Audible, Spotify, or otherwise won't be able to see that behind Rebecca right now, she has a series of wardrobes that look very, very white. They almost look like whiteboards. Question: can you write on those, or are they just a spot for post-it notes?
So I've not tried to write on the wardrobes. So the wardrobes were fitted prior to COVID, and we all worked in offices and everything. Well, I certainly did. Um, but then, obviously, I work from home now most of the time, which I enjoy doing. I've got a hybrid role, but my teams are at home, I'm at home, so I'm happy to be at home. The shiny, the white, I do stick post-it notes all over them. I've not tried writing on them. I feel like I really need to try this now.
I'd be
I feel
so
like I need to do
tempted
this
to
without my
get
other
out
half
a
knowing.
yeah, I'd be so tempted to just get
Might
out
have to do like
a whiteboard pen and start drawing something. But that's what it's
yeah,
as you
I'm
say,
tempted.
it's shiny, it's reflective. It looks like a whiteboard. It looks like your whole office is built with whiteboard walls.
I'm tempted to do it live now and just scribble with a sharpie. But if it doesn't come off, my other half will never forgive me. So I'll give it a test in a small corner later, I think, and discover if I can,
Tiny
use them as
area,
whiteboards or
tiny area.
something.
Nice small experiment.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Excellent. So you mentioned earlier you are in a remote or a bit of a hybrid role. I'm a huge believer that agility is possible wherever you are in the world. Hence the virtual agile coach title and brand or moniker that I give myself. What is your top tip or bit of advice you'd give to anyone who is performing in a scrum master or coaching role to enable their teams to be successful regardless of where they're based in terms of location?
So I suppose it depends on the team really. I mean, for me, it's obviously working with the team to understand how they want to work. So, like I say, I'm in a hybrid role. We've got the choice. We've got a really nice, fancy office in Leeds we can go to if we want to, or we can, work from home. And most of the engineers on my team, they're quite happy. They want to be at home. We've got some people based down in London, some that are up north. Um, so, I'd say top tip for me is I think sometimes the thing that gets a little bit lost with working from home is kind of building that kind of rapport and trust and just having those little conversations. So, like for example, when we're in the office, you'd go to a meeting, you'd come out of a meeting, you'd have 5 minutes to watch the next meeting, you'd have a quick chat, You might grab a coffee, you might talk a little bit about family, or how your friends are, or what you've been up to at the weekend. And I think that can get a little bit lost when you are remote, because you do tend to, you start your meeting, you're straight on at talking about work, and then it ends, and then you're back at home on your own in your office. So I think a top tip would be to try and still cultivate that kind of trust and rapport within your team by building in some time virtually. So we something we do is every couple of weeks we have what we call a virtual coffee. And that's just basically half an hour per scrum team. So I work with a couple of teams, and the rule is no talk about work, and we just rock up, cameras on, and we just talk about anything that's not work basically. And if we kind of mention work, we give some nasty things out. So yeah, so that's a tip. And then if people want to as well, and you're not too distant in terms of geography, then we still like to meet up for lunch every so often, or go out, for some drinks. I mean, I can't drink at the moment, unfortunately, but we've got people up from London, and we've met and just gone out and had something to eat and just had a few drinks, and we just keep that to kind of quarterly, just for that team building thing, really. So yeah, I think that would be my top tips. Just try and build in a little bit of time for what you kind of miss now when you're walking from meeting room to meeting room, or yeah.
Like it. Yeah. So, big believer in creating time for personal interaction. We are humans behind our devices, our laptops, our machines. We're not just avatars on a screen. And we crave community, and we're social creatures. We are gregarious in nature. So, making time for it in the workplace is very important. And I like the fact that you are emphasizing doing so. One similar thing I've done in the past, with the time, with a virtual coffee space. There's a great template on the Miroverse called the Challenge Bowl, and it's just a bowl, a bowl on a physical screen with lots of post-its inside, and you choose a number, and there's different colors, what colored ones, but some of them are just random thought-provoking questions. Some of them are just silly questions. Some of them you actually physically have to challenge and do something like create a new yoga position and demonstrate it on camera. It's just a bit silly, but it's almost a structured way of creating a non-work chat that I've found can be a little bit fun. The other one I like to do is that I try to dedicate the first few minutes of every meeting that I'm involved in for personal interaction. So whether that's just answering a silly icebreaker question like, what animal legs would you have and why, or what does a perfect day look like to you, or whatever it may be. And you can even like nominate one person to think of the question one day and then choose the next person to do it. So it's a rotational basis. But yeah, I like building time for personal interaction.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah, I might have to borrow some of those off you. I was going to say we kind of do the icebreaker one sometimes, because it was actually we asked the question, what do you have for breakfast? And I couldn't believe like not everybody in the world knows what a full English breakfast is. Obviously, that's just me being ignorant, but we had some people on from like Canada, Toronto, and I was like, oh yeah, my favourite breakfast is full English, and they were like, what's a full English breakfast? I was like, does not everybody know what a full English is? So yeah, it does get
how do you not
a bit
know what a full English breakfast is? Yeah. Wait, I'm still like, to me, it's crazy that you can have massive stacks of pancakes for breakfast and things like that. It just feels like so much carbs, but hey, to each their own. Everyone has a preference. Now, I understand you have your own YouTube channel also, Candid Agile. Tell me more about this. And if I do recall, there was a couple of videos about the concept of a Scrum Mum.
Yes. Yeah, so Candid Agile, I have to be honest, I've not posted any videos on there for a while, just because I've been jumping into a new organisation, and I need to get back to doing it basically, because I did enjoy kind of getting stuff on there. But basically, it was just a channel set up that kind of likes to talk about agility, really honestly and frankly, so like no bullshit basically. So that was the idea behind the channel. And yeah, I did start off talking about Scrum Mum. I think I did a couple of episodes, just thinking back to the organisation I was working with at the time. But yeah, so basically just the concept of, don't be a Scrum Mum. Let the teams kind of figure things out for themselves. So I think I gave a couple of examples of like, when you've got someone technical on your team, and they're wanting some information from someone else technical who might not be part of the squad, and you end up as a Scrum Master, or I have ended up in the past going to a different technical team and trying to translate, engineering language and try and understand what kind of people on my team are after. And it's almost like, don't be a Scrum mum, let the team figure things out for themselves. If they want something from another team, they've got legs or they've got slack in this day and age, go get it. And I guess it goes back to things like, Scrum Masters sometimes can be seen as like admin, can't they? Jira admin, they just come and facilitate the events, that's all we do, all that sort of stuff. So I think those videos were very much a time where I was seeing quite a lot of that behaviour, and I was kind of learning that that's not kind of good Scrum Mastery, and it doesn't actually help the team because they're never learning, they're never kind of becoming autonomous and all that sort of good stuff that we want them to be. So that was the concept of Scrum Mum. If I remember from those couple of videos, they're still on there if anyone wants to go back and have a watch.
Nice. So the videos are on YouTube, and the channel is called Candid Agile. This, as you said, a no bullshit approach to agility. Very cool. Like it. So, as always, on every episode of the podcast, I ask the guest to give me a new format. Now, I'm diversifying things a little bit, and I'm going to open it out. So, I always, in the past, have asked for someone to add a new retrospective template to my backlog, but I'm branching out a little bit, Rebecca. So you may add a new retrospective theme to my backlog, or you can just challenge me to do what I do and create a thematic template about any Agile ceremony, meeting, or otherwise, or something within the Agile sphere that could just do with a little bit of zhuzhing up and creative thinking. So what do you have for me? What's going on the backlog?
Oh, right. Okay, you've mixed things up now. You mixed things up. Trying to have a think. So I had a couple of ideas for retros, but then I'm also thinking it might be nice to like spice up something like sprint planning or.
Well, I have recently been creating or templates around co-creation of sprint goals in, again, a thematic way. So I did a movie themed one and a music themed one around creation of sprint goals, thinking of them experiments. So there was the music one was all around music. So we had Lego House, which was Ed Sheeran, and what are the building blocks of our our sprint? How should it be structured? We had other ones like One Vision from Queen. What's the vision we're going after at the end of the sprint? What are the outcomes we're seeking? So I'm definitely looking at different ways to create different ways of doing things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not because I like that because I know I've seen a lot of the retro stuff that you're doing, and retros are a great one for creativity out there. But I do think definitely like some of the other events, it'd be nice to get a bit more creative with them as well. So I guess I can give you the themes I've thought of, and then I guess you can pick what you'd like to go with, I suppose.
Go with the theme, and I'll think about the best place to apply it.
Yeah, so I've got three. So I didn't know whether this one already. So I did before pregnancy. I was or have been a bit of a professional kickboxer. Obviously, I'm not kicking anyone at the moment. So kickboxing was one. But I didn't know if you've had anything around martial arts before. See, I feel like I remember something around martial arts, but
I don't think I have. I know a gent called Dave Westgarth who today released a Rocky, as in Rocky Balboa themed retrospective.
Yeah.
So there are others out there in space creating thematic templates. Dave Westgarth being one of them. So Rocky is one option. Cool. What else? Sorry, not Rocky.
So kickboxing. Kickboxing. Yeah, and then for a really tough one for you, due to the fact I'm pregnant, I thought, could you create a retro around pregnancy? And I thought that might be a really challenging one. Could be quite interesting, talking about different trimesters and all that sort of stuff. So that's one for you to decide whether you dare to enter that world of pregnancy retro. And then I just wine and cheese, because I'm missing wine and cheese. Obviously can't drink wine at the moment, and there's a lot of cheese you can't eat when you're pregnant as well. So I think that was just me missing wine and cheese, really.
I can definitely appreciate that. If my life was bereft of wine and cheese, I would be very unhappy.
Yeah, it's not good.
Okay, so I've got three potential things there. Thank you for adding those. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show today, Rebecca. For anyone who is listening, we are always looking for new guests to appear on the show, so do reach out if you'd like to be involved. We have a growing Slack community of practice, which you can grab the invite link from my website at www.thevirtualagilecoach.co.uk. It would be great to have you involved. As always, folks, don't stop believing, and thank you very much for sharing your wisdom and insights today, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honour. Thanks, Chris.
All right, bye-bye.